which is kind of just my outline for you to take notes. There's some pens and pencils if you need those. There's a few of our whole grain muffins left, if anyone wants one of those. So you're here. Tell me what you're hoping to learn, and I can tailor things more to you.
How to make something with gluten-free and have it stick together.
Okay.
And taste like it's a bread.
Okay. Anyone else?
Or a muffin.
I have 3 girls who can't eat gluten, so I'm trying to figure out what to feed them if I can't go to the store.
Okay.
They buy everything from these specialty places, and I'm thinking that's not always going to be an option. So.
Yes. So do you want some food storage or more cooking?
I would like to know what to store.
Okay.
But also how to use it. So whatever you can tell me, I'm all ears.
Okay.
I'd like to know what kinds of things are really long-term food storage, because I know a lot of the things gluten-free don't last as long.
Yes. Okay. So how about, I'm hearing lots of cooking questions and storage questions. So how about if we cover storage kind of things first, what lasts and what works, and then I'll take your cooking questions and we'll do cooking. Okay, so take a look at your back page. Your back page is an approach to long-term food storage. So there's really 3 types of food storage. There's emergency, and think 72-hour shelter-in-place kind of food. There's short-term, which is everything you usually eat. You just buy a 3 to 6 month supply, so when things go on sale, you buy a few extra, you keep them in rotation. It's all your normal stuff. That takes no special skills, aside from writing dates on with a Sharpie. Now, long-term are foods that when you look at a long-term food storage program, it's designed to have foods that cover your macronutrients, the ones that you need the most of: protein, carbs, and fats, and the minerals that you need in biggest proportions, like calcium, phosphorus, and iron. So they are skewed to foods that last a long time and have those basic ingredients. You also need some other things, vitamins and other minerals and things like that, but the bulk of those long-term food storages are to get things that have those ingredients in them. And you'll notice in this, there's vitamin C on there because you need vitamin C, and it's in so few of those kind of foods. You know, it's not in beans, it's not in grains. So just kind of take a look down through that list of long-term food storage. And the short-term food items they have listed here are mostly kind of medium-term. And flour is kind of that way, that it's kind of medium-term. It's not really long-term, but you need more than short-term storage, and if you rotate it, it's fine. Same with these. But notice how many things on there are not glutinous. Most of them, actually. So really, for long-term storage, all you have to do is swap out those things that are glutinous. And you're looking at things that store well, that have lots of carbs, protein, or oils. So why do we store grain? We store grain because it's got protein, it's got a lot of B vitamins, it's got carbs, it's a really nice balance. So when you're looking at storing grains instead of wheat and barley and rye, you just have to switch which grains you store. So if you plan on making your own flour, you need to store the grains that you put in your flour blend. If you're not planning on doing that, then you just put the kinds that you like in and that store well. So let's talk about the gluten-free grains. I didn't bring any oats, but we'll talk about oats because oats are easy to get. Oats a lot of times are cross-contaminated with wheat, so you may want to get certified gluten-free oats. Oats don't last as long as other things, but oatmeal does. Oatmeal, if you store it well, can last a couple of decades, and it's easy to get. And that's because they steam it, and then they roll it. And in the steaming, they kill the enzymes that are aging it and making oils rancid.
Can you make oatmeal into a flour then?
Yes. Don't run oatmeal through your grain mill.
Oh,
Yeah, do not do that. You could do steel cut oats or whole grain oats through a mill. Put it in your blender. It's one of the things that actually mills pretty well in a blender. Do you have a question back there? I just kind of caught movement out of the back of my
I
eye.
know about the oats. So you're saying that you can take a whole oat groat and put it in there and grind it?
Yes.
And can you make it close to steel cut oats?
Okay, so I keep forgetting to repeat the question, but the question is, can you grind whole groat oats? Yes, you can. You can do steel cut oats in there. They're a big enough piece. You cannot grind oatmeal, but you can do that in your blender. And what was the second part of your question?
Like, does it become like steel oats? Steel cut
Oh,
oats, or is
yes,
it-
there we go. Well, that depends entirely on the kind of grain mill you have. This one will do a coarser grind. It's a stone mill. But if you have like a Nutramil now has some stone mills, but their basic original model is a different kind of milling action. And you can't get grains coarser than like a cornmeal kind of.
But on this one,
But this one you can.
and is it like a middle setting or is it a?
It would depend probably on the grain, how hard it is to mill, and so. But that's easy enough. And you should start on coarse setting and then adjust down. Because if you go fine, you can't go bigger without emptying out your mill. So start at coarser and then move down.
That's why we bought this mill, is because it'll do cracked wheat and such.
Yes.
Or it's the only mill I think that will do that.
Yeah, there are some others. So in my case, I prefer a finer flour to bake with. So I use my Nutramil, but for hot cereal that I want a coarser grind on, I use a hand crank mill that I've got, just kind of emergency preparedness, no power kind of thing, and do it that way. But it all depends. If you're going to do a lot of coarser grains, one of these kind of stone mills.
You do cracked wheat in that, and it works fine.
Cracked grains, yeah.
Do you do it just on the biggest setting, the coarsest setting?
I start there and then you can adjust.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about storage of grains. So your rice, white rice stores well. You're pretty familiar with that. Brown rice, colored rices, they go rancid faster. And like was pointed out in the earlier class, if you do have rice that goes rancid, you can soak it and rinse it well and it'll get rid of that flavor.
Soak it in baking soda, water. That would take it.
Yeah, I just did it with plain water and it worked, so I don't know that. I can't personally testify to that, but I believe that.
I've done it, and then you get tired of it.
Okay, buckwheat is a complete protein. It's good to store. So there are actually quite a few complete protein grains that are gluten-free. So quinoa, amaranth, buckwheat, they are all complete proteins. And did I say quinoa? Yep. They have all the amino acids that your body has to eat that it can't make. So those are good to store. Quinoa stores a long time, and it's really versatile. You just rinse it well and cook it like rice. And all the grains you can cook like rice. So if you're storing them, I would have a higher proportion of the ones that you plan to put in a flour blend than the ones that you're just going to eat, but all of them can just be cooked up and eaten. The small grains like teff is also a complete protein. Teff and amaranth, these tiny ones, it's best if you cook them in a blend too, unless you want a porridge-like consistency. So if you're thinking about this, get some small packages of these grains and experiment with them. See which ones you like. Teff is kind of the wheat of gluten-free. It stores really well. I talked to the wife, actually, of the man who first started growing teff in the U.S. Teff is native to Ethiopia, and it's very high in protein, calcium, and iron. So it's another good storage grain. They say,
I hadn't heard of that.
yes, the Teff Company, Teffco. Just Google Teff Company, and their company will come up, and you can buy through them.
Is it TEF?
F, yeah, like Jeff with a T. Yes, yeah. So, and you can come up and take a pinch. There's two kinds also. There's brown teff and ivory teff. They have about the same nutrients, but a different flavor. The white teff is a little bit malty, and the brown teff is a little bit more molassesy. So just kind of a flavor difference. They usually charge a little more for the white teff. But it performs really well in bread. And sorghum and teff together taste like wheat quite a bit. Not exactly, of course, but close. They give.
You get your
nice.
bulk sorghum, like if you wanted to buy 25 pounds or 50 pounds.
So I recommended a company called New Life Market in my book, but I went on and they don't have bulk packages anymore. If you want to buy bulk sorghum, take my card and call me, because I buy it a pallet at a time, and I can sell it to you. Shireen has quite a few of the other gluten-free grains here, but last I looked, she didn't have sorghum. So let's see, where are we? We did rice, we did buckwheat. Yes. And I don't think I mentioned quinoa. Quinoa will go, there's not as much good data on some of these gluten-free grains as there is on storage of wheat, but it'll go 6 years at least. And sorghum, I have gotten out of sorghum so far in counting 11 years, and I don't notice any appreciable difference in it. Yes?
Now, when you're saying the 6 or 11 years, is it in a can? Is it in a Mylar bag? How's it stored?
Yes, that makes a huge difference in storing. I have stored them bag inside a bucket in a cool basement and gotten that much time
Like a
out of
Mylar
them.
bag that-
I just did a plastic liner. Yeah, I'm kind of I go through things generally fast enough but I bought some sorghum when I first was experimenting with gluten-free, and it kind of got pushed to the back, and I thought, I wonder how that is, and opened it up, and it was fine, and it was just in a bucket in a cool basement. So it's highly storage dependent.
So I've noticed, at least at my house, that rice that I leave in the paper bag stores longer without going rancid than if I put it in a bucket. Is that just me, or is that a thing?
No, that's reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
it's how much oxygen, and in some cases, I don't know how they treat the bags. Like cheese in the package will go longer without molding because the packages are made
treated.
to be anti-mold. But you know what I do? I take a 25-pound bag of rice and drop it in a bucket and put the lid on. It's easy.
But it doesn't go rancid
Well, it will eventually,
eventually?
but you'll get, just consider that you would get the regular shelf life on it, but then you'll probably really get a little bit more.
Okay.
So, and those things really matter. Temperature, light, moisture, and pests are kind of the big ones for ruining food storage. And as I searched to find a definitive time, because there's not a good list somewhere of how long these gluten-free grains last. I went to a lecture that the man said, and this is a physical, chemical property, that shelf life is cut in half for each 10 degrees Celsius. So that's more like 17, yes, so that's more like 17 degrees Fahrenheit. But each drop, so like if you have something that lasts for a year at 10 degrees Celsius, at 20 degrees Celsius, it will last 6 months. And at 30, it will last 3 months. And that's pretty universal across everything, that each 10 degrees equals a cut in half. So your temperature really matters.
10 degrees rise, right?
Yes. Rise decreases shelf life. Decrease in temperature increases shelf life.
Yeah, I was going to say that brown rice gets rancid faster, of course, than others, but if you wash it with hot water, it'll take it off. You rinse it with really, really hot water. But I had a bunch in a 5-gallon, my chickens love it, and so I don't throw anything away unless it really is bad, but something like that. And then I wanted to know about spelt and kamut. Are they similar to?
Oh, okay, so question about spelt and kamut. They are wheat. They are wheat varieties, but they do have less gluten in them. So if you're merely gluten intolerant and they don't bother you, your choice. I guess it's your choice if you're celiac too, but if you're celiac, I would not go anywhere near those.
And I don't know how you say it, is Eichhorn?
Einkorn, yes, it is.
Also wheat?
Einkorn is wheat. It's a wheat variety, same thing. So if you've got celiac, just don't touch those because you will still have a problem. Okay. So millet, you'll only get a few years out of that. Keep your temperature good. What else? Amaranth, it's great because it's a complete protein, cooks up into kind of porridge-like, kind of sweet, a little bit grassy sometimes. After a few years, to me, it starts tasting like a Band-Aid smells.
What is that?
Amaranth.
Oh.
But it's nutrition-wise, protein-wise, it's really nice. But don't store more of this than you're going to use that you can rotate.
How many years did you say approximately?
Depends on how picky you are about the flavor. But you could get 2 or 3. So I don't keep lots of this around.
Are you Laura?
I am Laura.
We just wanted to say thank you.
Oh,
That's from Shireen and
okay.
all the ones from.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all being here. I wish we could give you all one.
I don't know what's in there. Maybe I can share. Okay, and wild rice. The main company says that this lasts indefinitely because its oil content is so low. It's very high in protein. It's not a complete protein, but it's very high in protein and has very little oil. So, and I've had some wild rice that lasts, I've had at least 5 years and there's no difference. I do store my things in buckets in cool places. This I just keep it in the packaging that they send it to me in, which is a box with a plastic bag in it, but it's in a cool basement, and I get lots of shelf life.
Have you seen mild rice sold here?
Not in bulk. So you've either got to reach out to Canoe brand or call me. I can buy it and I can sell it to you. If this bothers you, then you wouldn't want to buy it from me. I buy the broken pieces because they're cheaper and I'm going to mill them anyway. But I have cooked them up and they cook up just fine. So
What is Canoe?
Canoe is the brand.
I mean, how do you spell that?
Just like a regular canoe, Canoe.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you paddle. And the reason it's called Canoe brand is because it's native to the Northeast. It grows in the river, and the Indians would go out in canoes and harvest it, bend the grass over and beat it, and the grains would fall into their canoe.
So what about freezing any of these grains? Is that going to extend them, cause any problems?
No, it takes a lot of freezer space.
Right, but like with my brown rice, I usually freeze that and it seems to,
Oh yes.
it keeps it longer.
It's that same principle of the temperature. The lower you go, the longer it's going to last. And it's the oils. So grains that have more oils in them, a flax, a brown rice, or a purple rice, or those things, it's the oil that spoils it. And so that temperature, the lower you can get the temperature, the more shelf life you're going to get on it. Oxygen, temperature, and light. The most you can reduce those, the more shelf life you'll get. Okay, anything else? So like some of the things on this list, you know, for storage, canned goods, that adds in your vitamins, dried things. It says pasta here. You can store pasta, you just need to get gluten-free pasta, and I would go with one of the bean pastas. Like there's some really good chickpea pastas if you want to store pasta. Those chickpea ones are good.
How do you package those for long term? Do you put them in a Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers, or just keep them on the? Because I didn't think their shelf life was that long.
You know, that's one of those kind of things that I haven't really tested. So what you need to do is items like that, you need to treat as kind of a mid, not truly long term, but not short term, and just notice as you go through them, rotate them, and you'll get kind of a feel. The ones.
I wondered if it's, cooked them up, freeze dried them, if it would make them last longer, or I don't know.
I don't know.
If you've done any of that, but
No.
no.
So there are some things that I have holes in my knowledge because I am not gluten-free. I did it to help other people, and then then it spread and it became the business, and I had done a lot of non-gluten-free food storage, but then as I began to mill grains and learn about the grains, it was a natural pairing for me to take that on and I do store gluten-free grains, not because they're gluten-free, but because I like them, and the more grains you store, the more different nutrients you get. Variety helps your diet.
Now, do you use any, I know I was in your other class, as far as your flour blends to make homemade pastas? I mean, do they work well for homemade or not? I don't know if they would.
I cannot tell you that. But here is what I would try: high protein things. I know there is a recipe in one of the America's Test Kitchen cookbooks for pasta. I can't remember. I think it's the second one, but you could probably Google it. But I would try high protein things. I would try beans. I would try, buckwheat's got a lot of protein and a lot of fiber. And you'll probably have to add some gums. Yeah, and eggs will do that. Eggs eggs are good binders, and regular pasta has a lot of eggs. So, sorry, I'm not much help. I mean, I can.
I didn't know if it's worth storing a lot of that extra if you could make your own, because, you know.
That's something for you to research and experiment with. But that is where I'd start. I'd start with beans, and I'd start with buckwheat. And in fact, soba noodles are made out of buckwheat. So you might look up look up homemade soba noodles and see if you can find a recipe. That's what I would try. So even if I don't know, I at least can figure out a few starting points and some don't tries.
If you're gonna store soba noodles, read the ingredients, because they often add wheat to make them more cohesive.
And reading the ingredients is good practice if you're gluten-free anyway. But I do know that there are some that are gluten-free.
So I know that the Phillips pasta machine comes with a cookbook that has some gluten-free stuff in it. It's also on the internet.
Okay, Phillips cookbook.
Yeah, so get online, look for the Phillips pasta machine, and you can actually download the cookbook. Because it would give you a good basis for variety.
Because I know my daughter, their whole family's gluten-free, and I am, but pasta's like their main thing, and it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
They could make their own.
Yeah.
Really good.
And that's one of the wonderful things about coming to a class is we have all of your knowledge to put to the pool too. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
I've been using quite a bit of steel cut oats, and I'm trying to figure out how long I can store these in actual, like if I seal them in a can or if I put them in Mylar. And I'm just trying to decide about the protein also kind of thing, because a lot of these I still can't even use them. I mean, I can use like the brown rice and the quinoa, the steel cut oats and oats. But things like millet and some of these other things, I can't even use those because of it. And so I'm just concerned about getting enough protein and how I'm going to store these things.
Okay, so her question is, what about steel-cut oats? How can I get the most storage out of them? She's worried about, because her dietary needs are more constricted, a lot of these grains don't work for her. So as far as steel-cut oats go, they're not going to last as long as oatmeal. But were you in here when I was talking about oats versus oatmeal? Oatmeal lasts longer because in the process of making it into oatmeal, they steam it. But if you want your steel-cut oats to last longer, you can either make your own steel-cut oats. That won't give you significantly longer, but it will give you some longer because the smaller the particle, the more surface area for oxygen to interact and oxidize the fats. And so a whole oat will give you a little bit longer than a steel cut, but probably not a lot. If you keep them really cold, if you take the oxygen, I wouldn't buy 10 years worth. I'd buy a couple of years worth and pay attention. You can even, if you really want to test, keep some on the shelf, some in a basement, some in the freezer, and take them out but you could keep a year's supply.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Oh,
Just
I have.
yes, and just keep rotating that and notice.
And a sealed can has lasted actually quite long.
Yes. Yes, if you treat
Like 5 years.
Yes, if you treat your grains well, you can get more time out of them. So, yes. Glad you like them. We didn't get much to the cooking,
That's okay.
but it's in there.
Okay.
That should help you a lot.
Mostly the recipes are helpful, so.
And there's a lot of whole grain kind of recipes in there that are naturally gluten-free, better for you, cheaper, and would use.
They don't have corn so much, and we can't do corn either, so thank you.
Yeah,
'Cause
corn's a
everything
hard
has
one.
corn in it.
Yes, it's true. So, any questions till they kick me out for the next guy? We didn't really get much to the cooking.
I do.
Okay.
I opened something the other day and I was just mortified. There was those pantry bugs in them.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness. Does anyone, that's my greatest fear with our food storage grains, that they'll become full of extra protein. Does anyone have any thoughts on how to protect this grain?
so how are you storing your grain?
Buckets, and I'll put bay leaves in with that, which.
Yeah, which don't do anything.
Yeah, they do anything.
Yeah, so,
I have little crabs out that sometimes they catch other things than what I was hoping they'll catch. And this was some mashed potatoes that would be made into mashed
yeah,
potatoes.
like,
There were several of them in a box. One was full of them, the other one next to him was not.
if you left it long enough, they would be. So if you're going to store things, like if you get a package of those potatoes, you can throw those packages in a bucket. The nice thing about a bucket, I once got a pallet of sorghum that had meal moths in it, and I called the company, and oh no, it must have been in the truck. And the trucking company, oh no, it came from the supplier. So I immediately put that whole pallet of sorghum in buckets because I wanted to contain, if I had an infestation, I wanted to contain it. And so there were a few buckets that had them in. Also, when the winter came, I put them outside and froze them. If there are eggs in your grain and you mill them, it destroys them. So if you find them somewhere in your house, eliminate those and all the food around it, vacuum off your shelves, and put traps in. But the best way is to contain them. And if you're worried about things like that, just drop those packages into a bucket and put the lid on it. Well, so she bought potato flakes that got infested, and if you wanted to store them long and they're in plastic things, you could unpackage them. You could put oxygen absorbers in them, repackage. But I would use them fast enough that, and you know what, you could probably even just put the right amount of oxygen absorbers in the bucket with the packages. I drop packages of things in buckets all the time and seal them off. So I'm kind of lazy, but it's an extra layer. It's a quick containment. So whatever, there's not really. You're going to need to package things in different sizes in different ways, because I have always done buckets, but buckets, now that I'm getting older and I don't have as many children at home, aren't necessarily the best thing for me. Smaller packages are better for me, so that can change over time.
So I don't know if you have enough time, but I was wondering if you could address xanthan gum and psyllium and how healthy those are for you, and what do you do? I haven't really used them.
Okay.
Or we have
The next teacher is pacing at the back.
all right.
So, but I can talk to you. Yes, I can take my stuff out and we can. Years and years and years. As long as they don't get wet or are in something that they'll absorb flavor. Same thing with starches. If you're making flour blends that have added starches, they'll last.